Okay, so we're continuing on in our test review. We are on the section that is the quadratic formula. Okay, and this one you do have to memorize. Opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so if you don't have it memorized, be sure you do that. Let me kind of clean this up here a little bit. I don't know what happened to my pen. It jumped there. There we go. Okay, and so here's a key to doing your problems. It is just like factoring in the fact that you must set it equal to 0. And again, you can take any problem that you can factor and run the quadratic on it. What you can't do is take any quadratic and run factoring on it. Okay, so the quadratic does everything. Okay, it's a little bit more difficult maybe, but it does everything. So to some degree, you could never learn how to factor if you knew how to run the quadratic formula. Okay, so we are going to set it equal to 0. So I'm just going to start moving things around. I'm going to go start with my x squared. I like just starting with my highest. And you know me, I really frown on you trying to do all the steps in one piece because that's typically when people mess up. So now I'm moving my x. Be sure you do get it matched up with the correct like term. Okay, and now my 10. So yes, it is several steps that you're putting in to get it all done. I realize if you're in a hurry, you might want to put them all into one step, but just be very, very careful, okay? Okay, so we've set it equal to 0. That's our first step, okay? Okay, our next one is to find or identify A, B, and C, okay? So in this case, my A is 6. My B is a -5, and my C is a -14, okay? So the next thing that I'm going to do, and I really suggest you do this all the time, is write down the quadratic, okay? So I know you don't like that, but I would always write it down. Okay, now we're just going to put the numbers in. Now the other thing to be careful with is substitute B, I would say, with parentheses. Okay, I just think that that's going to be the easiest. So opposite of a -5, and see we do that parentheses, you got that double negatives there. And then B squared is a -5 squared. Okay, minus 4 times A times C. All over 2 times A. From here, you're just going to simplify it. So the opposite of a -5 would be +5. -5 squared would be 25. And in this position, it's always going to be positive. And then I'm going to multiply 6 times 4 times -14. So I'm going to grab my calculator, be faster this way. My battery's dying. Okay, I get 333. So I get plus 333. And that is because I have 2 negatives over 12. And then we're going to add these two together. And go ahead and try to square root 361 and see if it's a perfect square. If not, then you're going to have to simplify your radical. But this time it is a perfect square. Okay? Now, what does this mean? Because you're not done. What this means, guys, is that x equals 5 plus 19 over 12 and 5 minus 19 over 12. So when I get this one, I'm going to get 24 over 12, which is 2. And on this one, I'm going to get a negative 14 over 12, and it'll reduce, so it's a negative 7, 6. Okay? So x equals negative 7, 6, and 2. Final answer. Okay? Now, that's a lot of work because I showed a lot of extra steps, but check it out. Make sure you understand everything that I did. I really think the key here is putting these parentheses. Okay? Those are very, very important. Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and do 12 for you, just because of time. It's getting late Friday night here, and I would like to get to bed at a decent time. Okay, first step, again, set it equals 0. So I'm going to move my b. Okay, I'm going to move my 9 over. That's going to be plus 6. Okay, now a again is not, or the square is not 1. So the first thing I'm going to do is look for greatest common factor. Okay, and does 6, 10, and 6 have anything in common? And the answer is yes, 2 goes into all of them. Okay, so I'm going to factor out a 2. Now, for what we're doing, that 2 is not going to have us, we're not going to have to do anything with it. But if that was an x, then it would be a very important number. Okay, so I've got 3v squared minus 5v plus 3. Now, again, your a out in front here is not 1, so we're going to do the AC method. So 3 times 3 is 9. Okay, so what I'm going to be looking for, oh, I forgot what I was doing. Oh, I'm doing the quadratic formula. Sorry, I was trying to factor. Got sidetracked. Okay, so if you're doing the quadratic formula, you can actually do it on either one of these. You can do it on either one of these, but if you do it on the first one, you are going to have to go back in and do some reducing when you're done. So if you can reduce it ahead of time, that's going to help you out. So let's go ahead and identify our A, our B, and our C. Okay? So you can use this piece that's left after the factoring. That's okay. Okay, here we go. X equals a negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And I know some of you don't want to write that down every time, but the more you write it, the more you're going to remember it. Okay? So x equals the opposite of b plus or minus b squared minus 4 times a times c. All over 2 times a. So the opposite of a negative 5 would be positive. 5 squared is 25. And then when I take 4 times 3, I'm going to get 36. And 2 times 3 is 6. Let's keep going. Don't try to skip too many steps, guys. This is going to give me the square root of a negative 9. And hopefully you notice, well, I've got a negative under the radical, which again, negative 1 equals I. And negative 9 is the same as a negative 1 and a positive 9. So I is, or negative 1 is I, and the square root of 9 is 3. Okay, so this is plus or minus 3I all over 6. Okay, final step would be to check to make sure it won't simplify. So I'm going to check those three numbers, and there is nothing in common. Now here's the thing, guys. If I had used this equation, I would have been able to reduce at the end. Okay, but because I reduced first, I didn't have to reduce when I was done. Okay, so that is number 12 on there, just trying to shorten things up a little bit, but that's how you run the quadratic formula.